Women are progressively pursuing financial independence and breaking free from conventional gender roles and societal expectations. And this is empowering us women to find financial security and stability. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Women Talk. I'm Sazzy.
And I'm Deborah, and thank you so much for joining us. On today's show, it's our last and final show on season 3. How fast time flies.
Yeah.
We're talking about inclusivity and equality when it comes to women. Now, there have been so many initiatives, so many programs out there to help...
Womenpreneurs.
Yeah, to support female entrepreneurs, women from all echelons of society get ahead, and we see more and more women involved in the job sector and having to earn, and also excited to have their own financial independence. So we're going to we have two wonderful ladies on the show today joining us. Please welcome Vindy Tan, entrepreneur and co-founder of Hanya and Hari Rose.
And we also have Gayatri, Head of Employment Services Department. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks, ladies.
All right. And then back to you, Vindy. So what have been your milestones so far? I mean, you are a co-founder of Hanya and Hari Rose, and of course, I know the brand Hanya. Love it.
Thank you.
But, what are the milestones in the career of you getting up from your entrepreneur career till now?
For me, the brands, because I have learned so much from a startup company to a corporate structure. So I learned about building a brand from scratch, and I also learned about putting in processes in a corporate setting. So milestone for us, the aim for the companies has always been growing more horizontally instead of vertically. So we're planning to have a group of brands. So by the end of this year, we're going to have another brand coming, and perhaps a potential store in Singapore. So that's probably one of the milestones that we're looking and working forward to. Yeah.
I mean, it's exciting to know that you've got that support to be able to dream big, to have a vision, to be able to get the kind of support you need.
Definitely.
To see that come to life, you know. Gayatri, what are there goals, targets that I guess in your job role that you have set for women? Is it just to see, as you know, with Vindy, being able to just reach their dreams? Is that it, or do you have different KPIs for different...
Yep, certainly. I think SOCSO, being an organisation looking into social protection, I think the two key things that we're really looking into is that making sure that everyone has adequate social protection, number one, and adequacy in making sure that they're protected, they have the knowledge, they have the information, and they know that there's an important aspect in terms of social security. The other thing that we also involve very much in is to really increase the women participation in the labour force. So there are a lot of initiatives that we're right now doing, in terms of providing access to employment opportunities, encouraging employers to provide these opportunities, and creating that ecosystem or the support in which we can. I'll be alluding some of the benefits that we have for women later. But I mean, this is really our role in combining both the productivity aspect and the social protection aspect. So that's where social security organization plays a big role in that aspect.
As you say, knowledge is such an important part of this equation, but when you speak to women, they have no clue what's available for them often. They're kept in the dark. And I think often it's only when a problem rises, and we've had so many guests on the show where it's only when the husband passes away, or they end up in bankruptcy or massive financial issues, and then they're just like...
an urgency to find out what to do.
Only
desperation,
and then only then they go and get the information that they want to. If not, it's pure ignorance. And this is where I think we really play that role in bridging that gap with education and advocating and really promoting the aspect of them having the knowledge that social protection is really key for them.
No, absolutely. And I think even coming out of, the pandemic, you realize that there's staying in the dark or playing this, my role as a housewife, I stay home, take care of the kids, and my husband, that cannot be the case anymore. Even if you choose to be a stay-at-home mom, you need to be empowered with knowledge, information, and protection. And we're going to get into that when we come back after this break. Hi everyone, you're watching Women Talk, and we're talking about inclusivity and equality when it comes to access for women. I know a lot has changed in the past 10 years. not a long period of time, we have more female representation at government and decision-making places. And with that representation comes more positive programs for women's benefit. How do you see this rolling out, especially with some new initiatives?
I think there's a great, significant increase in terms of women participation. If you see among the undergraduate population, we see 60% representation of women, and if you see in board of directors, we see about 25% of them who are among women themselves, and close to 30%, of those from the government agencies who are JUSASI decision makers. So I mean, from that we can really see from where we were and the focus towards women participation in the higher levels as well. And I think even in terms of initiatives, we can see there's just so many out there very much focused to women and to really increase the participation of women all around. And
I like what you say about so many initiatives out there, right, Gayatri? But we're sitting here, ladies at this table, and we're pretty informed, right? We know what's going on. But yet, there's access to information. For some reason, these amazing programs and initiatives just don't seem to be making the rounds, or we just don't know. I don't know for you, Bindi, in the private sector, that startup world, is it the same?
It's, okay, so for private sector, I do have a lot of initiatives from private companies, such as banks, or like Cartier Initiative, or like MDAC, to approach me. But I've not heard from public sector ever. So it's more like I have to find out, or maybe the scale of the business, of my business, is not as big to contribute to anything yet. So for me, in the private sector, I have to actively, consistently looking for information from the government. Is there any grants? Is there any initiatives from the government?
But if they were to want to find this information from the government, from the public sectors, where can you lead them to? Like, is it on a website or social media platforms?
Definitely. I think social media would be so amazing. I think even newsletter, I'll take it.
Is there like a one-stop shop?
I think the Prime Minister's department does have a combination of, especially all the initiatives under the budget 2023 that's been aligned, and very clearly highlighted where women participation or any initiatives for women in particular is very clearly stipulated there. So I think it's also an effort for us women out there to go out and find out the resources that we need. There are a lot of agencies, organizations, NGOs who are rooting for women all the time. Showcasing the information.
Quite a lot of them. Like a lot of us always thought bank loans is the only way to go. Like, you have to take bank loans in order to survive, in order to stay afloat. But there are a lot of initiatives from the government that you have to work your way to get the grant. You have to pitch and win, then you get the grant. I think it's a fair game.
I mean, speaking on education or us seeking this knowledge that is out there about what's available, I think something that I've noticed especially is, and I don't know if it's like a cultural thing in Malaysia where, whether it comes to medical insurance or social protection, as you mentioned, Gayatri, medical insurance, life insurance, retirement plans, we don't really look for this social protection until we need it. And that, I think, funny enough, it happens at all levels of income, whether you're very wealthy or whether you belong to the B40 community. Why is that?
Okay, I may be wrong on this, but I think it's maybe a little bit of denial, of fear of, if it's me or it may not be me for that matter. So that's one aspect. The other one is, I think, education in the sense that I may not need it, so why should I actually read about it? Because I think where we are concerned, we do promote the initiatives that we have, but quite often we find that it's not cascaded down, number one. Number two is that I only want to know if I am affected or my family member. So that's the general, attitudinal thing that we see. And but it's changing, I must say. People are now looking out for a lot more information out there. So it's improving, I would say.
I mean, I end up quoting the pandemic a lot. Not that I like to talk about it, but I feel like...
I think we learned so much throughout the pandemic while we were in lockdown and closed in our rooms. We just had so much to think about, probably.
And also, I think people were in such desperate situations. All families that, men, women, everyone had to look for help. And so that was actually maybe a good exercise to encourage men and especially women to go to see what the government's actually providing, because as we say, they actually do have a lot of different programs and initiatives that we can benefit from. So there's a lot out there. You just have to go look for it.
Make it part of the conversation, the solid conversations that we have. Like, for instance, mental wellness was not something that we would talk about until the pandemic came. So when it became something we talk about, when it became the topic of discussion, then more awareness was brought to it. So I guess when it comes to a topic like this, resources for women, it's just having to talk about it so that more women are more aware. And then you're like, oh, you know what? As women talk to women, like, actually you can get help from here, help from there. And I think that's also a big thing. It's just making it part of the conversation.
I totally agree. I think a lot of conversations need to happen to make it into a norm. Like, it's no longer like, oh, when it happens, I have to go stick for it. It's more like, oh, when it happens, oh, I have 3 resolutions out there to go for it.
And be like, hey, have you heard about this and this and so and so? It's like, oh, really? No. Well, you need to think about it. So, just getting people to be more aware.
Exactly. And we're going to get into that when we come back after this break. Welcome back to Women Talk. Over the years, we have seen the growing statistics of female participation at all levels of society. And this is a great thing. Of course, we want to see the numbers grow even more.
Yeah.
And we recognize the multiple hats and roles that women wear and play. I mean, not just in the private sector, in the public sector, but also at home.
At home, and some of us even have social responsibilities as well. It's like, we're principal women, literally.
Definitely.
So I just want to ask, Gayatri, do you think that the Malaysian recognizes that women have multiple roles, and in what ways?
Yeah, I think, as I shared earlier, we see a great increase in the participation of women. And the government too recognizes this by looking at the importance of the care economy, in which the care economy is also a component of the entire economic development of the country. And we can see this through the recent, launch of the Housewives Social Security Scheme. In short, we call them SKSSR, in which it provides social protection for housewives, who one of the informal care economy, of course, in which we provide them protection against domestic accidents and also invalidity or illnesses for that matter. So I think that's really a recognition by the government and in the importance of housewife or the care economy for today, and the contribution on the multiple roles, as you mentioned just now, and ensuring that no one is left behind and they are adequately protected. There are a lot of initiatives under Belanjawan 2023. One of it is, of course, in terms of the social protection provided for housewives. But the other ones that are also provided is for the informal sector workers, in which we provide a matching grant provided by the government. So 80% of the matching grant is paid by the government, and the informal sector worker would only have to fork out 20%, which is about 46 ringgit 20 cents per individual. So it relieves the burden of the informal sector, and it's also applicable for women who are eligible for this. In addition to that, we also have something new, quite interesting, which is really for women after maternity wanting to come back. So we have a child care grant that is 80% of their insured salary, in which it's a 1-month grant, but really to entice them to come back to the workforce, because we do have incentives out there which is for employers, but this is, I think, one of a kind, in which we are providing it directly to the women to say, hey, you can come back, and there's something that we're providing you to send your child for childcare, and there's assistance provided by the government. And to add on, if I can share
this,
it's so exciting to share. So just one or two more. So we talked about social protection, but we also have some on the labor to increase their participation in the workforce. So we do have an incentive that's called Daya Kerjaya, in which we encourage employers to hire women returnees. So those who
getting women back into the
workforce after maternity break. So we actually provide incentives up to 1,800 ringgit for employers who hire these individuals coming back to work. And last but not least, just one more, if I can share, it's reskilling opportunities for women who want to come back. They might have been unemployed for some time. So we do have some reskilling initiatives for them as well. So I would say a good package, social protection,
something for everyone.
The active labour participation as well.
If I could jump back to the Housewives Social Security Scheme, you said SKSSR.
That's right.
So maybe if you could explain it a little more in terms of how it works, because you're looking at women who are stay-at-home moms, housewives, so they can do some form of. They can still earn some income from informal work from at home. That's fine. But how the scheme works? So does someone nominate them? Does a husband contribute?
Maybe I should share what a housewife would entail. So it's a woman anyone who's 55 years and below. It could be a single mother, you could be unmarried, married, right, or even a divorcee for the matter. So as long as you're a woman, Malaysian, even permanent resident below 55 years of age, as long as you pay for the contributions, it's just a minimum 10 ringgit a month or 120 for the whole year. It's a prepaid scheme, and you're protected for 2 schemes under this. So one is the domestic accident. So that's basically if you're participating, you're cooking and something happens to you, and you need medical assistance, it's provided. And we also have invalidity with illnesses. But I would like to just touch on the domestic accident. It's not necessarily work that you're actually doing at the home space. It's also, we women, we have to fetch our kids from school, or we need to go for grocery shopping. So even that is considered as part of the household activity. So if anything happens at that time, in which you're going for grocery shopping, there is adequate. So women can really function their household activities without fear right now, because there is something that's protecting them in the case something happens. And not just for them, for their, if anything had happened to them and if they didn't survive, we have benefits for the survivors, and we have funeral benefit arrangements as well. So
so the steps that a woman would have to do is find someone, your husband or anybody, as you mentioned,
it's a voluntary thing. It's a voluntary thing. So they could do it, or we have a lot of nice stories where even employers are actually contributing on behalf of the staff, and awarding them is part of a reward package. Or we have a family contributing for their sisters, and recently a colleague, a friend who I saw where the husband provided it as a gift for the wedding, in which I care for you, and there's actually a lot of ways in which we see that people are actually appreciating women, and in which they are actually using this as as a way of saying thank you, to the woman, to make sure that they are protected, and for them to be able to do their work at ease. Actually,
it's so important to recognize the value of staying at home, and it's very hard to quantify or put a value, a dollar on it, right?
Yeah.
But it's super important, and especially bringing women back into the workforce. We realize that so many families nowadays need dual incomes in order to make ends meet, right?
Sure.
So these are actual real ways.
Correct.
To achieve this.
That's right.
So where could women or men or anyone go to find out more about these initiatives you mentioned?
So there are 2 ways for men out there and women, of course. So go to suri.perkeso.gov.my, or you can just walk into any of our 54 Perkeso offices throughout Malaysia. Just come into the counter, and of course our officers will definitely be happy to assist you throughout the process. Not too difficult, simple, just register and pay, and you're covered. Yeah.
Right, and then stressing, so important. You may not need the help today, but you never know what can happen in the future. And really, do not wait for that problem. We saw so many examples of that coming out of COVID. So
correct. It's also a really good benefit for employer to have to attract women to work for the company. It's we also have this as part of the benefits. Is it because life insurance is really expensive for a company to cover?
Yeah.
So this 120 is definitely affordable.
Yeah.
Definitely for 20, 30 staffs, that's completely doable.
And I think you made an amazing point. It's also for employers. Don't, if you know this is really good and you know the benefit, the socioeconomic benefit to the country, offer this to your employees.
Talent attraction.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now that we know, we can spread the news.
Correct.
And I think, Deborah, if I can just add on, I think there are a lot of people who have not really purchased insurance or not really taken care of that part of it. So I think a lot of you out there may be very pleased to hear, because this housewife social security scheme does not have any discrimination against a prior illness. So even if you have had a prior illness and you may not have been able to purchase insurance for that matter, over here for this scheme, there's no discrimination. You can still come into the scheme as long as you're 55 years and below, as I mentioned just now.
Oh wow, that's interesting to know. I didn't know that the program is so extensive. Can I also ask if is there any other countries that's also doing this?
I think we really need to give a pat on our backs, because I think in Malaysia, introducing this housewife social security scheme, we are number 1 in Asia to introduce it. The first in Asia to introduce that, and the 4th in the world after Israel, Ireland, and Iran. So I think we've come a long way. Yes, and it's really
interesting selection.
How Malaysia is actually focused on developing the care economy.
And women.
What triggered that? I'm just curious. What triggered? How did we suddenly go?
let's take
recognize
care.
the segment,
Yeah.
let's take care of
I think there's a lot of things going on in the social security space. So, we're looking at, starting with formal employment, and then we started looking at the informal employment as well. And we're really looking at making sure that no one is left behind, and women play a very huge role in the care economy because they also represent a component in ensuring the support system continues to be productive.
Stable.
Yeah, so we need to
like-
have that ecosystem well managed, and it's really the housewife. So women power, there we go.
Right,
You know.
like right now, I finally know why am I paying SOCSO and EPF. So like EPF is 55
Yep.
and above, and SOCSO, this program is 55 and
That's
below.
right. Exactly.
Cool.
Thank you so much, ladies, for being on the show and sharing these initiatives. Something we always talk about on Women Talk is seeking knowledge. It's so important to have these conversations, to sit at this table.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's once you were saying earlier, sometimes we just don't know what we don't know. And so now that you know that there's information out there, you know that we have the internet. You can Google almost anything. And yeah, seek knowledge, be informed, and protect yourselves and your families. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, thanks so much for being on the show with us.
thank
you for
Really,
having
thank
us.
you,
Thank
Vindy.
you.
It's been lovely talking to you. And thank you so much to everyone for
Yeah.
being with us this whole season.
I
This
know.
wraps up the season
It does.
3
It wraps
for
up
Women
season
Talk.
3.
Yeah, and
How
it's been such
exciting.
an honor to be part of this show.
Exactly, and we can't wait to see you guys again for season 4. So please, if you have topics that you think we should talk about on the show, send them to us. We'd love to, we'd love your voice to be heard on Women Talk. Till then, take care, and we'll see you soon.
Goodbye.